everybody. It's August 3rd, 2024, National Ernie Pyle Day. That means we at the Ernie Pyle Legacy Foundation would like to celebrate with you. My name is Michael Brainard, and I am a proud director with the Ernie Pyle Legacy Foundation. This past year was a good one for Pyle fans. Our ongoing partnership with the National Society of Newspaper Columnists enlisted quite a few writers to put their thoughts down on April 18th, Ernie Pyle Remembrance Day. We also presented our first Ernie Pyle Humanitarian Award to Liz Carter, the retiring CEO of the Scripps Howard Fund, who has been a great supporter and partner of the foundation. And of course, Ernie's World War II masterpiece, Brave Men, made it back onto bookshelves after its re-release by Penguin Classics, all due in part to the efforts of everyone at the Ernie Pyle Legacy Foundation. And now on to a very special discussion with this year's recipient of the Ernie Pyle Legacy Award. Ray Boomhower is senior editor at the Indiana Historical Society Press, where he edits the quarterly illustrated history magazines Traces of Indiana and Midwestern History. His work is nothing short of prolific. He is the author of numerous books and articles on Indiana's history, including biographies of such notable figures as Richard Tregaskis, Robert Sherrod, Gus Grissom, Benjamin Harrison, John Bartlow Martin, Lew Wallace, Juliet Strauss, May Wright Sewell, and of course his 2006 book, The Soldier's Friend, A Life of Ernie Pyle. So please join me now for a heartfelt discussion with author Ray Boomhower, celebrating the legacy of Ernie Pyle.
Ray, your commitment to honoring Ernie Pyle's legacy is truly inspiring, and we are deeply grateful for your contributions. I've gone over your page on blogspot.com, and I am just blown away at how prolific a writer you are, first of all, and how everything is pointed in that direction of history and political history, and how you have a great appreciation of other war correspondents as well.
Thank you. Yes, Ernie was someone I was interested in from an early age, and of course, I did my youth biography about him, published by the Indiana Historical Society Press, and I'd known a bit about his wartime exploits, but I was really enraptured by just how famous he was even before going off to war. Through his vagabond correspondent days, traveling around the country, reporting on humorous things that happened to him, talking to a variety of people across the United States. And when I was doing research on Ernie at the historic site in Dana, Indiana, Evelyn Hobson, who was the curator back then, led me to these variety of letters from Scripps Howard newspaper editors from across the country who wrote Ernie praising him for his work in the column and saying, it's the first thing that our readers turn to every day. If we ever got rid of it, we'd lose a lot of our subscribers. So, he was hitting America's heartstrings even before he went off to North Africa and eventually into Normandy and into Europe and overseas in the Pacific.
Yeah, I've read a lot of those letters at the Lilly Library, and some at the historical site as well. Did they call it the State Historical Site still in Dana?
I think it's the Ernie Pyle Home now. Yes,
Ernie Pyle Home and World War II Museum.
I had even worked on a bit of Ernie's legacy early on. After my newspaper days, I did a stint for a couple of years in the public relations department at the Indiana State Museum, of course, which at that time had the Ernie Pyle Home as one of its statewide historic sites. And one of my early jobs as the PR person there was to go ahead and write new copy and produce new brochures for each of the sites. So I got to know Ernie all over again when I was doing that kind of work for the Indiana State Museum. And one of my favorite spots at the Ernie Pyle Hall back when I was a student in Bloomington was the lounge on the second floor where you go upstairs take a break, and also see these display cases filled with Ernie Pyle's memorabilia, including his citation for his Pulitzer Prize, one of his typewriters. So Ernie was really part of my student days and endured for many years afterward as well. I worked on the Daily Student from my sophomore through my senior years, eventually becoming entertainment editor when I was a senior. So I stayed on and actually graduated from IU, unlike Ernie, who left early because he already had a job in LaPorte, Indiana, for a newspaper there. So I always, when I go around the state giving talks about Ernie and his life, I always tell them that he and I have a lot in common. Both of us were born in small towns in Indiana. I'm from Mishawaka. Ernie's from Dana. Both of us, of course, went to Indiana University, studied there, worked on the Indiana Daily Student. And after we left IU, both of us worked on small town newspapers in Indiana, Ernie in LaPorte, and I went up to Rensselaer, Indiana in Jasper County. And of course, after that, our careers somewhat diverged. Ernie went on to earn fame and fortune and win a Pulitzer Prize in journalism for his work as the GI's friend in World War II. And I had the privilege, of course, of writing about his life. So that was something that got me interested in war correspondence, and I've continued that work with other books down the years.
Yeah. Yes, I'm looking forward to reading your book on Tregaskis. That looks like a good one.
There were some connections between Tregaskis and also in Ernie. And the fact that although Tregaskis started his wartime reporting for the International News Service covering the Pacific Theater, he was eventually there for the invasion of Sicily and then the invasion of Italy, where he was nearly killed by a German shell.
Right.
And Ernie visited him in the hospital,
right,
and wrote a column about Tregaskis for his readers back home. And even said at the time, if he had gone through what Tregaskis had gone through, he would have packed up and went home for good and just spent the rest of his war resting up and resting on his laurels.
Right. Do you have a favorite Pyle dispatch?
I really appreciate, I know Captain Waskow gets all the acclaim, but I really am moved whenever I read his dispatches about the Normandy invasion.
Yeah.
About, walking along the beaches, seeing the scattered remnants of the equipment left behind from this massive undertaking, coming across what he thought at first were two pieces of driftwood, but they ended up being the legs of a soldier that had been buried in the sand, and he was talking about how he'd come, so far to see France and lost his life in the battle. It always moves me greatly when I read that.
Same with me. That opening of describing it and touching on the sense of victory that he feels he's supposed to have. I think this is what was going on in his head. Could be wrong. And he says, "Oh, hell yes."
Yeah.
And that just hits me right in the heart. I was the narrator of Brave Men last year.
Yeah.
And so I was able to read the whole book. And that in particular, I wanted to get right. And it was emotional. It was a few times. It was emotional in reading that book. But that in particular is so complex, in the writing. I think one of the more perhaps forgotten about dispatches of his that I really like is the downed British flyer who spends like 8 days upside down in a plane in a field in France. That one is a favorite.
I also particularly admire his last column that was found on his body after he was killed in the Pacific. I don't know if it was ever published, but it is available, talking about the war in Europe being over, and talking about, seeing dead men
Yeah.
by the side of the road in mass production,
Monstrous Infinity.
Day After Your Monsters Infinity.
Yeah.
That really hits you and tells you all you need to know about what it costs for the men who fought in the war.
Yeah, and he didn't use qualifiers all that much, but when he did, they were perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a quote at the top of each page you write of A.J. Liebling that I just love it.
Yeah.
I can write better than anybody who can write faster, and I can write faster than anybody who can write better.
It's an inspiring quote. Yeah, I really enjoy that quote. He's another one of those World War II correspondents who I love his writing. And it's something that if you're a journalist and you're working in history, that's something to keep in the back of your mind. There might be others out there who can write better, but with your journalism background, you can always write faster than a lot of people. I'm never really bothered by deadlines because I'm used to because of my background in newspaper reporting and a daily grind of that. In meeting those, daily deadlines, you have to produce copy every day. And that's been a great help to me down the years in my career in writing about history.
Speaking of which, if you had advice to a young writer to give, what would be at the top of that list?
Read. That's the number one key, I think, to being a writer in any kind of subject, whether you're a novelist, a nonfiction writer, a biographer. Read. Read the subjects that you're going to be writing about. Get tips and advice and see how other people have addressed subjects with their work and in their books and their publications. You really can't be a writer if you're not a reader. And that's an important lesson for anyone who wants to get involved in the profession.
Only a generation of readers can inspire a generation of writers. That is Steven Spielberg when he won the Irving Thalberg Award. And
He's right on the beam there.
That's right. I've always remembered that. It is my great honor and privilege to present the 2024 Ernie Pyle Legacy Award to distinguished historian and author, Mr. Ray Boomhower, as our token of our sincere appreciation. Thank you for keeping Ernie Pyle's spirit alive through your exceptional work.
Michael, it's an honor and pleasure to accept the award. I would say that when I was a student at Indiana University, going into Ernie Pyle Hall on a daily basis and taking classes and working at the Indiana Daily Student Net building, I never thought in a million years I would eventually be given an award named for such a distinguished Hoosier. So I'm grateful to the foundation and everyone involved with the award for selecting me for this high honor.
Thank you for being here. Congratulations on being the recipient of the Ernie Pyle Legacy Foundation's Legacy Award for 2024. And I look forward to reading your blog every time there's a new posting. Is there any other place where we can find you, or anybody who's listening right now would be able to find you?
I'm on social media, of course, Facebook, X, the new social media account Threads. So talking about Hoosiers and their contributions to American history, plus, giving tidbits about my own writing. So if you follow me on social media, I'm happy to share what I found out about history and the people involved in it.
Well, it was great talking about our favorite writer together today. And thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Once again, congratulations to this year's Ernie Pyle Legacy Award winner, Ray Boomhower, for his role in promoting the life and work of the great Ernie Pyle. The Ernie Pyle Legacy Foundation is proud to wish you and your family another happy National Ernie Pyle Day. Make sure to visit all of our social media pages and our website at erniepylefoundation.org. Thank you.